Hi fight fans, how you all doing? It's Will here back for another fight card prediction. We're going to be breaking down UFC 193 from the Etihad Arena in Melbourne, Australia, as Ronda Rousey faces off against the undefeated in MMA and the former boxing champion Holly Holm in the main event. And in the co-main event, we have Poland's Joanna Jedrzejczyk facing off against Canada's Valerie Letourneau. Overall, the main card I think is fantastic. I think it's a good pay-per-view card personally, but the rest of the cards not overly great, with a few decent scraps kind of mixed through. I just want to put out there my Vitor Belfort versus Dan Henderson UFC Fight Night 77 predictions are up. If you could give that a watch, give me some of your feedback, it'd be greatly appreciated. So thank you for everybody who's watched and gave me some feedback already. I appreciate that. Getting onto this card, I think it's brilliant to see another stadium show personally. I think this just shows how big Ronda Rousey is. She can go to another country and sell out a massive arena. So I'm looking forward to see how many people actually are put into that Etihad Stadium, I should say. But we're going to start down away in the flyweight division. If we have Ben Nguyen facing off against Ryan Benoit, which I think this fight could be a very, very fun fight, one of the fights of the night, personally. I think there's going to be a lot of fun exchanges in this one. But we're going to start with Ryan Benoit, who's in his third UFC fight here. Came into the UFC facing off against Josh Sampo, a guy who's been around a long time. He's a decent wrestler, decent grappler, okay on the feet. Maybe the lights got to him a little bit. I just think that Sampo you could see the experience a lot more against Ryan Benoit. He took him down in the second round and got a rear naked choke. Came out in the second fight, which I think he's probably got an even tougher fight. He faced Sergio Pettis at UFC 185 earlier on this year, and they had a few nice exchanges in the first. Pettis always had the advantage. He was a little bit of the slicker striking. He was in and out and hitting Benoit before Benoit could really get him back. And goes into the second round, and Ryan Benoit just uncaught a shot that absolutely took Sergio Pettis' chin off, and he finished the fight via TKO. A little bit of a sneaky kind of hit after the bell as well, after everything had stopped. But that was a huge win for Ryan Benoit in his career, and interesting to see him going into this fight if he kind of employs the same tactics, because Nguyen is a very aggressive fighter. So it'll be interesting to see what his game plan is going to be for this one. Ben Nguyen, watched a few of his fights before the UFC. You could see that the levels he was fighting wasn't great. He came into the UFC against Uptekin Oskalic and looked fantastic. He was all action, come forward, throwing really nice attacks to the body, to the head, and was just, you could tell that he had power in his hands. And for the flyweight division, that's something that a lot of people don't have in here. And if you can come in and knock fools out, you're going to go a long way in that flyweight division if the rest of your game is up to par as well. Took him out with like a second in the first round. A very fun debut for Ben Nguyen. I found this fight a little bit hard to pick. I originally went with Ryan Benoit, but I've kind of changed the more fights I have seen of Ben Nguyen. I think that he has enough to get it done here. I think it's going to be scrappy, back and forth, but I think Nguyen has just got enough to get the victory here. So I'm going to go Ben Nguyen via decision. Middleweight division, Dan Kelly against Steve Montgomery. This could be a bit of a stinker, I believe. Dan Kelly, former judoka, I think he was in the Olympics a few times. Was on the Tough Smashes show, Tough Nations show, I should say. Came into the UFC, beat Chris Indich on the show. Came into the UFC, beat Luke Zacharias, beat Pat Walsh in an absolute horrendous fight, and then just got his chin absolutely smashed against Sam Alvey last time out back in May when it was in Australia. He's got judoka skills. He has got submission skills. If he gets you to the ground, he can hurt you down there, as we've seen with the Kimura finish of Luke Zacharias. I just think that Steve Montgomery, who he's facing here, it's just a tough matchup for him. He's a big guy, a tall guy. I think he's coming up from the welterweight division. He was supposed to be in the Ultimate Fighter ATT versus the Black Zillions. He had to fall out of that show via, I think it was a seizure that he had. and then he faced Tony Sims in his UFC debut back in Florida. Got off some nice shots. He hit Tony Sims with a knee, hurt Sims, but then he got caught with a massive shot and he got put to sleep. I think it was the second round, if I remember right there. I think that Steve Montgomery's got the advantage here if he can get through the first round, I think, and if he keeps his range and his distance, he can outscore Dan Kelly, and the later the fight goes, I think he can stop the fight. So I'm going to go Steve Montgomery with a third round TKO victory. Moving on to the welterweight division, we have Richard Walsh against Steve Kennedy. This is just going to be a blowout win for Richard Walsh, in my opinion. Steve Kennedy came in against Peter Sobotta back in Berlin this year on the same card that Joanna Jedrzejczyk main evented. The fights that I've seen with Steve Kennedy beforehand are not great, and the opposition is not good. Richard Walsh, on the other hand, is a guy who came in to the sport MMA, didn't really want to compete, just to kind of do something to keep fit, and then appeared in the Tough Nation show. Came out of the show, he beat Brendan O'Reilly, I believe, back in Chris Indich, sorry. He beat Chris Indich in the finale, then went to Japan and faced Kiichi Kunamoto. Personally, I thought he won that fight against Kunamoto. He got off the better shots. Kunamoto was kind of in and out with shots. It was a close fight, but I always thought that Richard Walsh was ahead in that fight, and felt he got a little bit hard done by in that one. And in the fight with Alan Giovanni, just getting a little bit of a firefight and got put in the wrong position against the cage. And with Alan Giovanni, he can throw a lot of unorthodox strikes, and he caught Richard Walsh with a beautiful elbow and got taken out there in the first round. I think this is a walkout victory for Richard Walsh. I think I might go for a first round TKO for this one. Don't like Kennedy's striking. I think he gets backed up in defence a bit too easy, and he will eat shots in this one, and Richard Walsh should get the victory. Moving on, we have Brendan O'Reilly against James Moontasri. I think this is another matchup which is the odds should be heavily favoured in James Moontasri. His corner, I think he's the better fighter. He faced Ling Jingpiang in Macau, I think it was, in the Bisping card last year. Lost that very unanimously. And then in the fight against Vic Grujic, I thought that fight was a lot closer than a unanimous decision, in all honesty. I think it could have been easily a split for Vic Grujic. He took Grujic down more. I think that's possibly kind of swayed the judges in his opinion for that fight. But personally, I thought Vic Grujic was a little bit hard done by not winning that fight. But James Moontasri is just a probably 2 steps above anybody he's faced in the UFC. He's got that Taekwondo background, comes out of the Black House. He came into the UFC fresh off of his wins in the RFA. He beat Jordan Rinaldi with a beautiful KO punch in the second round. Then came into the UFC. Joe Ellenberger, I thought he won that fight against Joe Ellenberger. Cody Pfister, I thought he looked fantastic against Pfister. Took him down with some beautiful shots and then caught him with a beautiful rear naked choke. And then he got a huge step up in opposition against Kevin Lee, and he's just not ready for that type of opposition as of yet here. But I think that his aggressive striking will really hurt Brendan O'Reilly. O'Reilly's going to try and look for the takedown, and Moontasri has got some decent takedown defense as well. I like Moontasri by a TKO. O'Reilly's tough, he's got a chin and he comes forward, but James Moontasri is a better fighter, a far better fighter than Brendan O'Reilly, and I can see a second round submission victory here for James Moontasri. Flyweight division, moving into the Fox Sports 1 card, we have Richie Vaculik against Danny Martinez. Danny Martinez probably shouldn't be in the UFC, if I'm being honest with you. He's lost 3 straight, and usually with the way things are going with recent cuts, if you have 2 losses, you're usually on your way out. Lost to Chris Carriazo, who's a tough guy to beat in that flyweight division. It's anybody that faces him is going to get a tough fight. Scott Jorgensen, he lost unanimously, got taken down, he got hit with a better shots, got put against the cage, and just Jorgensen, I actually think he hurt Jorgensen at one point in that fight, but Jorgensen just had enough kind of he was a bit more ring savvy and took him down and pounded him, and then got back and kind of did the same again. And in the fight against Sarwan Kakai, he just got taken down far too easily. He got hit with straight jabs kind of all night long. He got taken down 5 or 6 times. And after that, I thought we'd never see Martinez in the UFC again. But he's got this here against Richie Vaculik, who in his last performance, he beat Louis Smolka, who I wasn't too big on. I'll be 100% honest with you. I wasn't big on him. I watched him at UFC 189 in Vegas. Thought he had a great performance against Neil Seery. And then recently, last week, in Dublin, or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, he put on a great performance against Paddy Holohan. And now I kind of see this guy is the real legit fucking deal. So he's going to go a long way. And in that fight with Louis Smolka, he was completely dominating that fight. He was up 2 rounds. It was the start of the 3rd round, and Louis Smolka caught him with the sweet chin music and put him to sleep. This is the guy who's competed. I think he competed on the Tough Nation show, 155 pounds. So he's a big guy for the division. His only win in the UFC was against Roldan Sangchaan via a very unanimous decision. He just outclassed Sangchaan everywhere in that fight. And his other UFC fight in his debut was against Justin Scoggins, who's a very young kid. He's traded wins and losses a little bit, but he's a guy who's going to be around the flyweight division. And I think one day will challenge for the belt once he gets all his shit together. So I like Richie Vaculik in this. He's got enough takedown defense to stifle Martinez. I think he outstrikes Martinez on the feet as well. I'm going to go Richie Vaculik via unanimous decision here. Light heavyweight division. We have Anthony the Hippo Perosh against Gian Villante. I see this as another very much so a one-sided beatdown for Gian Villante, but you can never count out Anthony Perosh, the veteran. He's been around the UFC for a long time, but I just think this is a matchup that is not a good one for him. He got his head taken off against Sean O'Connell last time out, and Gian Villante is a guy who has big power strikes, and if he can get them off early, I think if he gets a couple of shots off early, this is going to be an early night for Villante. And but say with Perosh, you just never know. He's been around. He's fought up at heavyweight, and he's beat guys. I mean, that knockout of Vinny Magalhaes, nobody expected that knockout within the first. I think it was the first 30 seconds. But he has been knocked out before. He got knocked out by Ryan Jimmo. He got knocked out by Crow Cop. The guys that he's beat, I don't even think any of them are in the UFC anymore. Tom Blackledge, Cyril Diabate, Nick Penner, he won via TKO. Guto and Ascench, I think he beat via submission, and Vinny Magalhaes. None of these guys are in the UFC anymore, so that kind of says a lot of his opposition here. Getting on to Gian Villante, the guy who fights out in New Jersey. A guy who I thought was kind of moving forward his career. He came off a beautiful knockout of Corey Anderson, which was a fantastic fight at UFC on Fox back in April. Beat Sean O'Connell via split decision, which was a little bit controversial, I think. And then he got slugged out with Fabio Maldonado in that one. But he faced off back in July against Tom Lawler, and I had him as pretty much a heavy favourite in that fight. And Tom Lawler, in that first round against Tom Lawler, he let Tom Lawler up with some heavy leg kicks, hit him with some nice body shots, and connected with some great in and out striking to hit to the temple, and looked very comfortable, and then just got hit with a huge shot in that second round. Tom Lawler back with a huge victory after being out for such a long time. It's actually quite nice to see, because Lawler's a fun guy. But I did not see that fight. I did not see Villante losing that fight, and he did. But in this fight, I like him a lot against Anthony Perosh. I think this is Anthony Perosh's last fight in the UFC, last fight of his career, and I think he will get knocked out in the first round. So Villante, first round, TKO. Welterweight division, we have Kyle Noke against Peter Sobotta. I thought Kyle Noke lost his last fight, getting out there against Jonathan Webb. He got taken down a lot. He got outstruck. I think the reason it being in Australia kind of helped him a lot. But against Peter Sobotta here, Sobotta's a guy who I actually seen in Dublin. He was in the corner of Krzysztof Jotko, and the guy was training non-stop in the room in the hotel where we were staying, and he was getting ready for this fight. And he's come back into the UFC Finished Steve Kennedy, which is not really a hard thing because Kennedy is dog shit. It's probably putting mildly. He's not great at all. I shouldn't really put fighters down like that, but he's not a great fighter. Peter Pollock is another guy who's not in the UFC anymore. He won that via unanimous decision the last time in Germany in 2014. So it's nice to see this guy fighting kind of soon again, because he hasn't fought an awful lot since he came back to the UFC over a year ago. He's only fought a couple of times, but I think this is the matchup he can definitely win here. I think Kyle Noke's the heavier hitter, but I think that Sobotta, once he gets a hold of you, he gets you down, he's hard to get off. Kyle Noke is the underdog in this fight. I think if you're looking at underdogs, Noke has a chance. But personally, I like Peter Sobotta in this one. If he has to try and get it to the ground and he can pound out Noke a little bit. But I'm going to go Peter Sobotta via a very close decision, 29-28. Being in Australia, that might not go down that well, but I think that Sobotta's got enough to win this fight, so I'm going to go Sobotta via split. And the main event of the Fox Sports 1 card, we have Jake Matthews against Akbarh Arreola. Arreola is another guy I really don't think kind of deserves to be in the UFC. He was on that. He came in and he was against Thiago Dos Santos, got pretty much outworked for the whole 3 rounds and lost via a unanimous decision. Came in against Eve Edwards, to be fair, he was on his last legs in the UFC and of his career. A guy who's been around a long time, had some big wins, but he was on the swan song of his career. And in all fairness to Arreola, he caught a beautiful first round armbar, got the win there. And then last time out against Ronaldo, just got kind of beat up in the feet. He got taken down and dominated there. He's against a young kid here in Jake Matthews, who I fully believe has got, even though he's coming off a loss, has got a very bright future. Lost last time out to James Vick. Started off a bit too aggressive, and against the guy against James Vick, who has got huge range. He's very crafty. If he catches some submissions like he did with that, I think it was a guillotine choke, or like a high angle guillotine choke, you're going to be in trouble. He just couldn't really get out of it. His 2 wins against Deshaun Johnson via submission, and then he submitted the black belt in Wagner Hosha. I see a lot of upside with this kid. I think over the next few years we're going to see him progress into being a very good fighter. I like this fight for Jake Matthews, and I like him via submission. I'm going to go 2nd round submission against Akbarh Arreola, so that's a win for Jake Matthews. Okay, in the main card now. Starting off in the heavyweight division, we have Stefan the skyscraper Struve against Jared Rosholt. I thought seeing Stefan Struve come back was just a beautiful, beautiful thing. The kid's had it's hard to think this kid's only 27 years old. He's been around a long, long time, but his last 24 months of his life have been pretty bad. He was scheduled for fights and had to pull out literally before his fight. His father passed away. He's had medical conditions. So when he came back against Minotauro back in Brazil, he had a beautiful performance. Minotauro, it was the last fight of his career. You could see it was not the Minotauro of 10 years beforehand. But he came in, he stopped the takedowns, he got off the better shots. He was a better counter striker that night against Minotauro, which wasn't hard to do so because Minotauro is very slow. You can hit him with all you have, and he's still going to be there. He's very, very open to shots. Before that, he got knocked out by Alistair Overeem in his comeback fight of nearly a couple of years, which I was a little bit disappointed because I thought he had enough. If this was that 2 years back after he beat Miocic, I think he handles Alistair Overeem with ease. He got knocked out by Mark Hunt when he got his jaw broken there over in Japan and just got beat up. There's still a lot of upside for the kid. He's been around a hell of a long time. And he's against Jared Rosholt here, who's a guy who's predominantly a huge wrestler, but he has got some big power there, but he has been knocked out in the past. He's 4-1, 5-1 in the UFC. 5-1 in the UFC with wins over Walt Harris, Daniel Omilanzuk, Soa Palele, Josh Copeland, and last time against Timothy Johnson. He was a Big Ten wrestling champion. He was a Big Ten 3-time All-American wrestler. And as you can see, his 4 of his 5 wins in the UFC are via unanimous decision. So you know what this guy wants to do. He doesn't want to stand and bang and get caught in a firefight on the feet, because that's just not his game plan. He wants to get you down to the ground. He wants to use that superior wrestling, get some shots off, get the superior positions, and just win points and win rounds off that. He did that against Harris Omolanzut Palele. Got a TKO victory over Josh Goldman, which was nice in the 3rd round, and then unanimous decision over Timothy Johnson. But he nearly gave that fight away in the final 30 seconds. He got hit with big shots by Johnson, but he managed to survive, get a hold of Johnson and stop that. With his only loss in the UFC coming against Alexei Olenek, he got blasted in the 1st round and got taken out there. I like Stefan Struve in this one. Even if he gets taken down, I can see him catching a submission against Jared Rosholt, but I think he's got enough power to knock out Rosholt. So I'm going to go the Dutchman, Stefan Struve, via TKO in the 2nd. Moving on, I think it's the best fight in the entire card. Robert Whittaker against Uriah Hall. This was supposed to be Michael Bisping against Robert Whittaker. What can we say about Robert Whittaker since he went up to middleweight? The guy has looked rejuvenated. He has looked ready to put a serious beat down in people he steps in there with. And he's won performance bonuses his last 2 fights. He knocked out Clint Hester in the 2nd round with a beautiful combination that put Hester down and finished him off with ground and pound. And the last time against Brad Tavares, I'm like, that was he looked phenomenal in that fight. And Tavares is a tough guy. I think he was 15th in the rankings, which moved Whittaker, I think, into those rankings if I'm right there. And yeah, he looked fantastic. So he's against Uriah Hall here, who's a guy who I picked the big upset against Gegard Mousasi. There was a few that did pick Uriah Hall. I just had a feeling for Uriah Hall. I think that win right there, he caught him with a beautiful spinning kick and knocked Mousasi out, and then he caught a flying knee as well and caught him with that, and then finished him off with ground pound. The referee pulled him off. That wasn't so long ago. Is that going to be the fight that Uriah Hall needs to send him on to domination in that division? I think it could be. He beat Oluwale Bambose before that, who's a guy coming to the UFC. He was always going to beat the guys that sparred before. You could see that he just had it over Bambose from the get-go. I like... it's hard to pick this fight. Both guys have got massive power. If Uriah Hall can... I actually thought Uriah Hall looked very good off his back against Mousasi, which was saying something as well, so that's something to keep an eye out. But I think if this is going to take place on the feet, I just have a little bit more confidence in the varying attacks of Uriah Hall. I think he just needs to be a bit more aggressive, and hopefully excuse me, that should be enough to kind of get him the victory here. So I'm going to go Uriah Hall. Be a very close decision victory, but not too confident in that pick. Heavyweight division, I'm not going to get into this too much. Mark Hunt, if you've seen the pictures of this guy recently, he looks a freaking beast. He looks in shape. Antonio Silva is going back in his career. These two guys had a fight in Australia not too long ago, which was absolutely outstanding. One of the best heavyweights fights you'll ever see, if not the best. But Silva got popped in that after that fight as well. Mark Hunt is going to knock out Antonio Silva, and I think he's going to do it in the first 90 seconds of this fight. Mark Hunt's got a lot to prove here, coming off that beatdown from Stipe Miocic. I like Mark Hunt, and I like him big. First round knockout for Mark Hunt. Co-main event, we have the women's strawweight champion Joanna Jedrzejczyk against Valerie Letourneau, who is 3-0 in the UFC with wins over Elizabeth Phillips, Jessica Rakoczy, and last time against Marina Moroz. Quickly talk about the last fight. Joanna Jedrzejczyk outstruck Jessica Penne by over 105 more strikes, 125 strikes, which I think is absolutely crazy. Just hit her with leg. She showed more leg kicks in that fight, which was unbelievable. Her striking's right there, and I just think that she's going to light up Valerie Letourneau. Letourneau, last time out against Marina Moroz, showed beautiful counter striking against the aggressive Moroz. Dropped her with a beautiful right hand in the first. lost the second probably, but in the third she took her down and had a way with her. I can see Joanna Jedrzejczyk just lighting Letourneau up. She's too open, and Jedrzejczyk will hurt her, and I think she'll do it with inside 2 rounds. I think if Letourneau, she needs to make the weight first. She's struggled to make the 115 weight, the 116, 115. She struggled to make the weight. If she can make that, it'd be decent. I think it'd be quite a big achievement for her. But I think Jedrzejczyk's just going to blow through her. Second round TKO victory for Joanna Jedrzejczyk. And the main event of the evening, we have Ronda Rousey against Holly Holm. Holly Holm, she needs to keep this fight at range. That's what she did before she went to the UFC. She kept it at range, used her fast boxing skills, and that led to head kick knockouts and beautiful body kicks. But will she get the time to do that against Ronda Rousey? I really don't think so. Holly Holm's going to try and pop jab, get away, and Ronda Rousey's going to come in and she's going to clinch and want to hit her with big shots. I just don't see any way she stops Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is just a bulldozer, and she will snap limbs, she will knock you out, just like she did against Betchko here. She is phenomenal for the sport and phenomenal to watch. I just don't see where Holly Holm, she has the vast boxing experience here over Ronda Rousey, but Ronda Rousey's going to find a way to get her to the ground, and she's going to submit this girl here. So for me, I'm actually going to go a bit late. I don't think Holly Holm's going to go so easy. Late second round submission for Ronda Rousey. So that's my picks for UFC 193. I'll be back for the next card, which I think is in Mexico. Kelvin Gastelum, Matt Brown. Come follow me on Twitter, Will Martin7 MMA. There's plenty of good guys out there with great podcasts. Go follow their guys. Severe MMA, Half the Battle. And just thank you everybody for watching and giving me some feedback and everything. I'll be back soon enough for that fight card in Mexico. Take care and enjoy the fights when they come around. Thank you.